Hey guys, today I want to talk about the ending of the first episode of The Mandalorian. And if you haven't seen it yet, obviously this will contain spoilers, so you might want to turn away now. But at the end of the first episode, we see something that we've never really seen before in Star Wars canon. A baby Yoda, or at least a baby from Yoda's species. We know very little about it other than it is 50 years old at the time of The Mandalorian finding him. There is not much else known, but I do have a theory as to what his role is and why people want to find him. To start, the only two members of Yoda's species that we know of is Yoda himself and Yaddle, both of which are extremely strong in the Force, and both were high-ranking members of the Jedi Council. So knowing this, it makes sense to me that since this creature is also part of Yoda's species, that he will also be extremely connected to the Force. It is also important to know the current state of the galaxy at the time of the show. Where we are in The Mandalorian is just a little bit after the Aftermath novels, which detailed the collapse of the Empire's power after the second Death Star was destroyed and the Emperor was defeated. The Empire's collapse is a recent state of affairs in the show, as we see when the Mandalorian's client, who is portrayed by Carl Weathers, tries to pay him with Imperial credits. Bounty Hunter scoffs at it because the Empire is technically gone. I should note that the Empire is not completely gone at this point. After the war ended, the Empire still had some territory left, with the remaining leaders choosing to sit back and casually rebuild and rearm before starting another war as the First Order. And we see a few Imperials still shuffling about on the show, but the Empire was still mostly gone, and certainly no longer the government in whatever part of the galaxy the Bounty Hunters Guild has set up shop. So knowing this, it makes sense that if this baby is powerful with the Force, then the client and the Doctor would want to use this power for their own benefit in some way, possibly using a strong connection it could have with the Force as a potential weapon as the creature grows older. To me, the client looks old enough to remember the events of the Clone Wars, and because of this, he could have seen or heard the power of Yoda and possibly Yaddle, and because of this, it could make sense to want to have a member of the same species who is highly connected to the Force as a weapon that could be molded for your own gain, whether for themselves or possibly even something planned by Sidious himself. A second option could be that the infant could be the key to the revival of the Jedi Order. This seems a bit of a stretch, but if you think about it, Luke Skywalker was beginning to set up his new Jedi temple around this time, and possibly even looking for new younglings to train. The client could be trying to hide the infant from Luke because of the fear it could grow to be extremely powerful like Master Yoda was. This also goes back to the idea of the client remembering the events of the Clone Wars. There is also a third theory out there that I'm particularly not a fan of, and it goes off the idea of the patch on the sleeve of the Doctor bears a Kaminoan emblem. In the prequels, the clone army was created and grown on the planet of Kamino. Knowing that Yoda and Yaddle are strong Force users, perhaps the client and the Doctor in The Mandalorian are trying to create their own Force-using army. Now we have seen this before in Star Wars Legends. In the Force Unleashed game, we learned that Darth Vader tried to clone Starkiller, and it did not go well for him. And I don't think it's going to go now for the people trying to clone him, as well as the show itself, as I'm hoping that the show comes up with something new instead of coming up with an idea already shown in Star Wars Legends. For me personally, I like the first two theories better, as they offer something new rather than ripping off Star Wars Legends. Which in some instances, I'm glad to have some aspects of Star Wars Legends coming back to canon, but in this instance, I want something new. And I'm also hoping to learn more of Yoda's species, and even possibly learning where they come from and their name of their actual species, because as of right now, the only thing that we know is that they're called Yoda's species. And I want to know what you think of these theories in the comments down below, as well as if you think we'll learn anything of Yoda's species from the show in the comments down below. And if you want to see more content relating to Star Wars, then subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.